mean, we can at least get started, I guess, with rep reports if no one minds. So we can at least move this along since we have a few, like, very, like, actually talk about both things on the agenda tonight. That would be ideal for me personally.
Okay.
Really need some action.
I mean, the only announcement I would have would be like Love Thy Neighborhood is doing the Santa at the tree for the next 3 Saturdays from 11 to 2. Bill, was it 11 to 2?
Yes.
Yeah, 11 to 2, the next 3 Saturdays, Santa will be at the tree. They will be collecting toys and dog items for like doggies and children. And they'll have like hot cocoa for sale, it's out there at the same time, and we have Santa in the room right now. But that's the only thing I have for community stuff. Oh, it's funny thing I was saying was.
Officer Harris, give it to you again, Dave. Floor it's yours. Looking for anything else?
Just a couple things, so. We have a surveillance ordinance that we are in with, in order to be in compliance with the city. It was a couple of years ago, so anytime we have a new technology that involves things like surveillance, we have to put that in display, from the public to use it. That can be brought to, so that meeting in this district is going to be held this Thursday at Kirby Library at 3 p.m. And what will be on display is, it's reaching to all of the vehicle to be manned or unmanned by our SWAT division and something like when they're called out, they could use this vehicle to reach a door and release chemical agents or some kind of recording device, hence the surveillance option. So that'll be I don't know if anyone that looks like to be first time I've seen as well. And also part of the are displaying their new technology, which is solution avoidance education system. So that's this Thursday. And similar to what Randy was saying last month about our ALPR, it's our automatic license plate reader system. That'll be up for city council to vote next Tuesday the 9th. A couple of quick stats. It will perfect December of 2022, so December will be it's 80 investigations, 600 investigations, so it's 2 a day. Even today, we recovered a stolen vehicle from it. Since then, we've recovered 460 stolen vehicles. We're about a vehicle and a quarter a day on average. We're actually recovering them. We are focusing on just 1 day. Average 450 arrests. It helped out with our Bill Press event, we are all these shootings. I was involved with one of those. The license plate reader allowed us to view a vehicle and then also track down the registered owner for that vehicle. And then, long story short, we got 5 individuals investigating just because we were able to use 1 camera for the vehicle rather by. So they do help us out quite a bit. In my report, there's a link that I've been forward. They essentially attach it to support or not support the ongoing use of the LPR systems. It's kind of mutually harmony and treatment up without today. Just good. Any questions about this one?
Did you guys ever find the person or find any info about the person that got stabbed down by the curb?
The question is,
Nothing.
still very active.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was rumors about who they kind of suspected and stuff, and they.
Yeah, we had to call them by, but it's still very active. We do this and go through their room and they started to do something money. That's so we actually do.
People can run.
Yes.
The figure. Okay.
Yeah. It's still very active.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think there's anything else. Look at that. Okay.
You know, what they're doing up here. So,
Okay. So a couple of people who were online said that they could kind of hear you, but not
Oh,
always.
sorry.
So we're gonna ask anybody who speaks to like kind of come up closer to the owl so that you can be. Do we have quorum yet?
Virginia emailed me, she is feeling sick as well. So Chris Skowski and Virginia Wilson, not being here today. Hey, Kevin. Okay, great. You can settle in, but does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Or amendments? And if not, does anyone object to the approval?
Do we wanna switch?
I mean, I don't think there's no point for you.
Okay.
That is something that. Okay, so with that, do I have any objections to the approval of the agenda? No. Okay, great. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes or any changes to the minutes?
I did not see anything weird.
The only thing I maybe was gonna ask is I just kind of like front see the timestamp, is that good enough? Cause we need to like footnote saying this is timestamp for the.
Yeah, I was gonna actually make that suggestion, because the times don't really matter to people, but yeah, if you could like put the time. And then maybe a note at the top saying if you wanna view the videos, you know, the timestamps are in the agenda, and then you can put a link to the video.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise people are like, what are these?
Yeah, that's been.
Yeah, but it's great, it's really great, cause then people can listen to the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for doing that.
yeah.
I will,
Other than that, no changes to the minutes. No, that's so smart, especially since we always have the prep. Go back and look at things.
I love it.
Make sure we're quoted correctly. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Tracy. Second, Chris.
Yep.
Any objections to the approval of the minutes? Awesome. Okay. Council member,
Hi.
not our council member, but a council member. I would be happy to give you time on a representative's report, or were you looking to make a non-agenda?
It is not agenda, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
Process.
No, I don't think any other reps are here, so. You can be first for non-agenda public comment then.
I'll get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Apologies. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sean Rivera. I represent San Diego City Council District 9, but I do spend a lot of time here. I'm actually staying Dog Beach, Doggy. We come here a couple times a week. I was here with my son. I also grew up in a coastal community, so this is my de facto beach when I need, not want, and need to get in the water. You may have heard, we proposed a vacation home tax. Vacation home tax is being proposed because I believe that homes are for people, the neighborhoods are for people, and I've seen the way that short-term vacation rentals are upending Ocean Beach and other coastal communities, other neighborhoods in the city as well, but primarily coastal communities. And we want to do something about it. We believe that the vacation home tax is a way of doing that. I'll pass out some information in a moment here. What it would do is it would apply a tax to each bedroom that's used for vacation homes or short-term vacation rentals, full home, full-time vacation homes. So this would be a tax on absentee investors, on corporations that are treating homes like hotels, rather than the homes that they are. Every time a cottage or condo or a modest Ocean Beach home turns into a short-term vacation rental, the neighborhood loses. We lose kids in our schools, and we lose the fabric of our communities. So the tax is aimed to address that issue head on. It's put a price on that, which would return those modest homes back to being homes where they should be, and ask those folks who maintain vacation homes to pay their fair share. Just to give you a sense of how serious Airbnb is taking this, they've already committed to spending $2 million against this measure, and are already throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars around the community and nonprofits. I don't know what they've been for the last few years, but they certainly weren't making those contributions prior to this proposal. They're trying to pave over the damage they caused, and I don't think communities like Ocean Beach will stand for that, or San Diego will lead. So I'm gonna pass out some information and a sign-up sheet if you're interested in learning more. I'd love to earn each and every one of your support for this effort. think it's super important, not just for this neighborhood, but for the city as a whole. Thank you, everyone.
Councilmember. Anyone else non-agenda public comment? No. Awesome, we'll roll right in, so Greg, if you, I sent out his blurb earlier today, but. Greg, I invite you to take your time, introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna open the floor to questions from the board, and then we'll vote on your appointment. Have you step out, and then we'll vote. Yeah, go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg, and just a little bit about my background. I grew up in Wisconsin and then moved out to California after college and started in Claremont for a few months and immediately fell in love with Ocean Beach. It reminds me a lot of Madison, where I spent my college years, and just love the neighborhood. I've been here for about 15 years now. I live over by Dog Beach with my girlfriend and my dog, and we also run a vacation rental in half of our house. So kind of a business owner and a resident, and I've attended the last couple of meetings and found it interesting and wanted to get more involved, and so, yeah, it's been about me.
Thank you. You guys have any questions? I do just want to make it clear, so the term would expire this upcoming. So your 10 signatures would count towards your 20 total signatures you need to make the ballot, but it would just be up for re-election again, but. You could obviously be a voting member until then.
Good with that?
We have one of them, see.
Yeah, this is the one you have to see.
I got a question. If you could wave a magic wand, what are three things you would change?
Three things I would change about Ocean.
Improve.
Anyone says everything's.
Well, I think, but on top of it, like, do you want to change or do you want it to be it is?
I think a little bit of both. So I'll answer part of your questions maybe together. I think that one of the things I'd like to change is some of the things that you guys are already working on. Like I found the discussions around Rob Field and Dusty Roads and some of the improvements there very refreshing, maybe overdue. I think things like that where we can improve the spaces, even the art project on the roundabout. I think these are like really cool ideas that I'd like to see happen in the neighborhood. So that's the kind of thing I'm interested in, is maybe those small incremental improvements. And in terms of, do I want to change it or do I want it to be the same? I think both. I think the discussion last meeting was very interesting about preserving some of the history, where I definitely see the value in that, but I also have a different perspective in trying to get into the housing market in this neighborhood, which is not easy to do, and have a home and afford that. And so there's an interesting mix of things where I think you can find the right balance.
Anyone else?
The last person, someone asked me if they have a cat in the dog.
Well, do I have a motion then? To approve?
To approve of the great report.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Well, we'll call the rolls and Tracy will go last.
All right, so motion to approve. All right, so Kevin.
Yes.
Chris, me, yes.
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Graham,
Yes.
and
Tracy.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, great. Election committee. I do believe, I think it's Tracy, you're up for election, Greg's up for election, Tyler's up for re-election. I think Chris, you might be up for election.
I think I go with Mercedes.
Yeah, thank you. Someone else, yeah.
The good thing
It's
about-
on the website, so.
the good thing for.
I gathered my signature last year.
I don't have to.
Okay, it might be another Chris. Look.
I think it is.
I don't know.
I came up way quickly. It's accurate.
Could be another Chris.
Yes, it's.
Okay. Okay, so you guys can't be on the election. What is the election? they oversee the elections. So I figured it's nice.
So it's-
Yeah, so we typically set up, online voting, drop-in voting, and in-person, and we have to have in-person voting that also goes, through our meeting. So you would probably come in an hour before the meeting and sit there, and then just make sure the paperwork is up to date on, website. And set up the online voting portal. Right, are we gonna be able to?
Yeah, absolutely, it's economical to do that.
Okay.
It gets way more votes than in person.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, great, so
I will
thank you.
volunteer my,
If you're not up for election?
you know, I want more votes.
That's
So I-
true. Oh, God, first time for everything.
He has kids though.
Yeah.
All right, anyone else wanna help Kevin? Or, yeah. Is that two should be enough? You see more? Well, I guess I can be with
I already
them.
emailed the absent viewers. Tonight, I guess. We'll get it done in the room. We would be.
It's very easy though.
Okay.
You can-
I'll help.
we
I
can
don't
do
have
the
to do all
paperwork,
I'll
whatever.
help. I'll do the PR. I'll do more outreach this year. How about that?
All right.
Okay, I'll help with outreach. Great. Motion to approve the three of us as the election committee. We should meet.
We can meet over Zoom.
That's true. Okay. Okay, yes, because we do have to present at the January meeting, our plans. Okay. Sounds good. Any objections? Approved, Tracy, motion to approve, and I second. Okay, moving on. I mean, did everyone look at it? I'm happy to go over it, because honestly, I think it'll take multiple meetings.
Yes.
Especially since Tyler isn't here to answer any questions, I specifically, well, Barbara's here, you guys. You were there, I was there when they approved. Okay, do you wanna present it, or do you think? Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
I asked what I could put from.
Was it just you, Tyler?
It was just us.
Okay.
Just the two of us.
So, do you have problems to that? Not a robust public outreach. Yeah. That's okay,
I thought it would get a lot of attention.
well, why don't you, yeah, you can start with the problems you've had with it, and we.
There hasn't been a lot, like, we didn't even, we kind of knew you guys have been working on it for the
Mhm.
last year.
But there's been a lot of gaps.
But there has been a lot of gaps, so we didn't really, I mean, I don't know if there was been a lot of public outreach, I don't know if there's people that attended your meetings, I mean, except for the one time when we all showed up, that
Yeah.
one time, that was like over a year ago.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if anything, that's like the first issue I have with this, is that there has been like zero public outreach, so.
Why don't we just work our way?
Yeah.
Well, real quick, so there was a motion at that meeting, that right here, was
to
it,
bring it to this,
was
yeah.
it just simply bring it to
Right,
this?
that was it,
Okay.
to approve, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, yeah, there was a meeting that some of us attended, I think it was, yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah. Right.
And that was probably before you were on the board, so there's been some changes since then.
Right.
Try to.
So I only went to one, we only had one meeting since I joined the subcommittee. And, okay, so couple highlights, things that I had an issue with. Number one was, okay, so we wanna put this giant roundabout in where SeaWorld Drive, Nimitz, Sunset Cliffs and the Haight, right? So we're gonna do a giant roundabout. I personally hate the one that's on West Point, Wilmette and Bacon. We live on Brighton, we usually come that way, and I avoided at all costs. People drive over it. People don't know rules of the road when it comes to, I mean, people sit there stopped forever, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. And it causes a backup. It does not keep the traffic moving. Okay. So that was my one problem, and then. when it came to, did anyone read in here about the proposal about Sunset Cliffs from that intersection all the way down to, is it, Montgomery Avenue? And did you guys read about that? So the proposal.
Started, this is Barbara was walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got that 7.
Oh, well, there wasn't any reps here today, so we kind of went through it. Great, go for it.
Well, if you wanna start at the beginning, because we were just kind of
Yes.
cherry picking things.
What we just started, yeah.
Do you have the slides? I can just start with the slides.
I don't have the slides, we just have the presentation.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean this?
This is what I have, your draft, whatever
Okay.
Andrea posted.
Did you bring?
I have.
What's on drive? Yeah, okay,
Yeah, I
we can
mean-
close it then.
Okay.
We're gonna just hang out for a little bit.
We got another way.
I mean,
I know, but
plugging in would probably be the back this
you
one.
could just plug into that, is there a secondary? Because if you pull, if you disconnect mine with my mouse. You can run.
Why can you just, can I just comment in?
I'm running the Zoom and the
Oh, okay.
presentations.
Um,
Well, you can take over the papers. Okay. That's fine.
That's, as soon as.
This is the projector.
Yeah. We got a USB-C, I think, which one's the HP one?
Do you need, which do you want, USB-C or HDMI?
USB-C.
What's it here,
Oh.
You want to trade for?
While you guys are getting organized. Can you give me like a little bit of context of kind of how this initiated? Is this a normal thing to like evaluate for transportation plans, or was it a specific requests, or?
So, well, it was one of the couple things I wanted to do, here, was get a plan forward to, is this not working? What do I do? Hold this on. Do you have the, USB one? You can send it as an option.
There's USB-C or HDMI.
HD. Yeah, I think we talked about. So I started it, in 2024. It's been talked about for a long time, going back to the community plan. We've had several, we've really had 2 versions of the transportation committee, look at this, and put input on it. So it's kind of been through the ringer. This isn't my plan A, that's one of the things I wanted to start with. This is my plan B, but it's probably just as effective as the plan. I think it is just as effective. It just gets around some politics of the park. I'll just start reading the first part until that comes on. Residents and visitors up to Ocean Beach have long been mired with increasing traffic and congestion to a community with a single point of access. Locally known as sunset traffic, the increasing population of San Diego County has resulted in failing intersections exacerbated by visitors to Sunset Cliffs, Rodd Field, the pier, public beaches, and the city of San Diego's only dog beach. OB's primary thoroughfare is congested, north to south traffic is increasing on residential streets. Take Evers. So people on Evers will love this because I think this will lessen traffic on Evers. In avoidance of Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. Standard, is the full EIR set of permits, agencies permits, that need to be given. I think that there's going to be some environmental agency clawbacks in this, but when you get to plan consistency, and particularly in the plan, all of these agencies who we're going to need permits from, it's substantially supported by all of their plans. In fact, Caltrans has a goal of something like redesign interstate terminals, and that's exactly what it is. So I went historically back, this, you know, out there it says Ocean Beach Freeway, that's actually historical mitigation from before this was an interstate, this is a freeway. And they paved it, they planned it in 68 and paved it in 70, and hasn't been touched since. The project goals are supported by the community plan, and furthermore, discussions surrounding intersection design were documented on June 1st, when community members proposed restriping, adding safety features, upgrading bike lanes, and adding a mobility hub with more parking, with a trolley structure on field. In March 2024, this is giving the history, it starts here. A GDP was proposed at 110 parking stalls to Rob Field right over there. Pickleball courts, multi-use, blah, 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 you know what else all in there. And the first iteration of this plan was in 2024 by our transportation committee. The earlier conceptual plan that I talked about, that was my plan A, was to bisect this and connect Bacon Street. I learned how much political objection we're gonna get from parks, and it's a profit center for them and a lot of other things, so. This plan does not propose that, but I did point out that we're gonna underground. Under this, it does propose, and we'll get into this detail a little bit more, an underground here, in exchange of that, we're gonna underground here. And I'll explain why in a little bit later. The committee rejected the above roadway connection. And requested parking structures. These changes were intended to preserve Soccer Hills and make up for the parking elimination on Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, which is, we'll get to. The transportation committee had 3 meetings, those are the dates, and we have it scheduled tonight. If we come down to this action, take a look at a timeline. The community plan, the discussion started in the year 2000 and they were adopted in 2015. Within that time period, there was a data collection period from 2005 to 2008, and that is the financial number of 2008. So note that when we're gonna go into the data that was collected during that period in a second, and just know that it could be adversely affected by 2000. And in 2010, there was an existing conditions report issued, and that is the best data we have to go on for making this plan, but there is some really cool stuff that comes out of that report. Even though it's a little bit come down a little bit. Everything in these goals are about traffic, intersections, mobility. There's nothing in here about housing or retail or Ferris wheels or anything. So in terms of this, I'm gonna go into the physical lines of where it goes up, but in terms of the scope of the goals, anything added down the line when the city gets to final engineering has to be consistent with these goals in order for it to be consistent with this plan. So here's some of them, intersection, secondary access to Rob Field, we only have one way in right now. And it's clogging Sunset Cliffs Boulevard and West Point Loma. So everyone on West Point Loma should know this. Construction of a visitor parking structure to encourage people to transition to last mile mobility options, walking, rolling, public transit. And decrease traffic volume entering Ocean Beach proper. Increase pedestrian safety and bicycle safety with separated lanes. Design a ped bridge and entrance sign to connect dusty roads to Rob Field. Basic street upgrades, prioritize landscaping, and maintenance funding. That's big because it's not just about building it, it's about keeping it looking nice. So this plan calls for a program ongoing, who's gonna pay it, we want to see those details in advance, who's gonna water it. And environmentally sensitive design. So this is the some of the results of this study. So the plan calls for with increased growth in average of 10,000 average daily trips or ADT. That is exactly what it sounds like. It's a car going down the road. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky because it's possible with street redesign, and this plan goes all the way through Odie. On Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, but it's possible that we can increase the performance of this road so much. That the described level of service in this gets greater, it gets more green towards A. Whereas the amount of trips could actually increase, so that's kind of counter, when you're talking about street redesign, you're talking about load on streets. You think, okay, well, more cars has to mean more congestion, not if the street redesign is, if the street design is better. If the design capacity of the street is able to hold more ADT, these are going to go green. And if you're wondering with these colors, it's very simple. Green is no congestion, and it's kind of amazing how you can get these intersections down with color. So because green is free flowing, and an F in red is totally congested, long waits, failures at lights, and then everything between is kind of incremental. And so when you talk about a failure at a light, what is that? Anytime you're in a traffic light and it turns from red to green and cars go through and it goes red again, that's a failure. The light did not fail to service the entire load in the intersection. So those can be counted. And the more failures, the more they rate lower on the system. That is in a gist, and I'll just go to this really quickly on this, no, I don't think I, oh, well, that's more weird.
And then disagree with like shrink.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, well. The
Which one were they, the PowerPoint?
yeah, that one.
Right.
Scroll down. So when we look at the load, this is the map that I blew up from that 2010 traffic study, and these are in thousands. So 45,000 trips here, 37. Coming in, I think that's a typo because here we're at 28. So what does that tell you? What happened to those cars? Right? Now you're coming here, 15, this is Newport. 13. Over half of your load is gone by the time you get to Newport. That's how many people are coming in here going to Rockfield. So it's kind of interesting to me that people call it sunset traffic. I totally get it, but I think that Sunset Cliffs is actually less of a ADT addition than everything else. Robb Field, the Dog Beach, all of Newport, the residential. And these numbers are probably a little bit low because of the 2008. But you can deduce that nearly half of the load is gone by the time you get to Newport with this, and I bet it would be about the same. So why don't you come up here and click this? And see if that video will play.
Green one?
Yep, put that. Well, this is 2 minutes of how roundabouts are better than like sections.
No, doing this on my. There are intersections.
The visual is really what's important. Right?
Some of these safer intersections look very different. Others may look familiar, but require a different way to make left turns. The goal is to either reduce the chances for serious crashes or manage the circumstances around crashes to make them less severe. Whether an intersection crash is severe depends on 3 factors: conflict points, vehicle speed, and collision angle. Intersection conflict points are where the paths of different intersection movements merge, diverge, or cross. They can involve vehicles with other vehicles, vehicles with pedestrians, or vehicles with bicyclists. Where there is a conflict point, there is the potential for a collision between users. For instance, here are the conflict points of a standard intersection. All conflict points have the potential for harm, but left turn conflicts are especially serious. Of the 32 vehicle-to-vehicle conflict points at a conventional intersection, 12 are associated with vehicles turning left. Now, consider a couple different intersection design options. If it were a reduced left turn conflict intersection, vehicle-to-vehicle conflict points are cut in half. If it were a roundabout, vehicle-to-vehicle conflict points decrease from 32 to 8, including the elimination of all left turning and crossing conflicts. Other intersection designs are also effective at reducing.
I think that's enough,
modifying
but I just wanted to get that big
and
part
all
through.
improve or maintain traffic flow while making.
Just double click. So that's the idea of how you're gonna improve safety in particularly. Actually, when it comes to efficiency, it's a mixed bag of people with roundabouts between people who think they're more efficient, I'm in that camp, and people who think that they're just as efficient. Not very many people out there will say that they're less efficient. But what we're looking at is a lot bigger than that. I have another one I'm gonna show you on just all of that. So here's the descriptors here. You can see free flow, stable flow. Here's another flow. It's an unstable flow, you're hearing forced flow. And so that's how it's possible that if you change your intersection design and you get rid of those flows in the way, your road capacity will start ranking higher on this flow scale, even though the number of cars that may be counted goes up. So more cars does not always mean more congestion. So come down here now. Actually, brings in the building nice thing. Yeah, go back to that. Yeah, parking elimination. Okay, so this is the hardest pill to swallow in all of the plan. And it's actually, I just proposed planning a parking structure first. And then and this is, you know, when I'm at home writing, I try to keep everyone in mind to try to be something that would pass, but this is the one that I could not get away from. They're in the way. So widening the roadway would be more costly and result in a loss of landscaping. I mean, we could get rid of the trees and keep the parking if you'd like. Access OB preserves landscaping and eliminates the parking, which is estimated at 368 spaces, or about 5% of the off-street parking in OB. These spaces are of lowest quality in Ocean Beach due to vehicle occupants opening doors into oncoming traffic. Parking elimination on Sunset Cliff should begin with a 1-year trial to monitor the success or failure. The changes by collecting community input and pre-project and post-project traffic data if possible. If there's physical changes done, that's gonna be more hard. So that's why that is possible there, but if we can do a trial, we should. Parking elimination has already occurred up to Voltaire. And parking should be preserved where possible. Okay, so that means that if they go through and they say, all of it's on the table to be eliminated, but if we can keep some, let's keep some. Remaining spaces should be limited to 30 minutes during business hours to promote turnover. I'm driving through there right now in the morning at 6 AM and I am not seeing people over in parking in Sunset Place. So unless they're all getting out there and moving their car at 5, it just seems to be kind of the last resort. These are direct quotes that I'm not gonna read from that plan that also said that the removal of the parking is what's standing in our way of it from the 2010 plan. Yeah, so next one, next slide. Okay, cool. So this is the parking. What this is like a cross section of all of Sunset Coast Boulevard. This is the beginning, next all the way down to the park right here. They've already, on this red, they've already gotten rid of all of the parking right there, right center turn. So this idea has already been implemented up until this point. And on here, this is just a quick visual. The only thing different on these two is that I removed these cars parked and added a center turn, but there's the same amount of cars except everyone sees this move that's going on all the time. If we could just fit a turn lane in there and get rid of these cars and move this lane over half and this lane over half. During those peak times, you get in and out quicker. Safety staff, that's a little blurry, but this is just, most of our accidents are happening out here. 83% of collisions at Ocean Beach occurred on Sunset Cliffs, 4 fatalities in the 10 years, 64 resulting in injuries. Rear ends happen more outside of town and broadside happens more internal. Emergency response time, if it already hasn't been affected negatively by our congestion, it's only gonna get worse by it, so it's expected to improve. I'm gonna throw on bus service with that, because if the buses can get in and out quicker, that's also gonna help with bus service. And on December 5th, we had a pedestrian killed at Nimitz and West Point Loma. And you can't do that if there's a 3-inch median in the center of the intersection. So you could run an intersection, but you can't run around them. Next one. Not gonna read that, but it is kind of ratty out there. I think there's that group that does it's kind of interesting, the ones that the Point Loma group takes care of, they look great. And then the other areas where they don't, it doesn't, and in a big part, and it's hard to get people excited about irrigation, but none of this is irrigated. Robb Field is irrigated and it's green. So with doing this, yes, you're gonna get landscaping, but the bigger thing is that you're gonna get purple pipe, probably recycled water. Or any kind of irrigation, because you're not gonna plant this much and then not irrigate it, all dies. Okay, so next one, Tristan minutes. Okay, so La Jolla Boulevard is pictured here. So those of you that were around in the 90s, you may remember this La Jolla Boulevard. And that's basically what we're asking them to do. We want a little bit of that action through Bergerac. That is the closest comparable project I can say that San Diego's ever done would be Bergerac. Pershing is the same because there's not as many intercepted roads. It's like a long way with no interceptions, not very many interceptions. I think I'm covering most of it. Go on to the next one. So bridges. This is when you say there's going to be a bridge, people's mind can go wild, and this plan doesn't call for anything in particular design wise. But if you look how modern these are, and then we've got some old ones here that we know of. We've got hideous, ugly pedestrian bridges over the interstate, so your mind can go in quite a few different areas. Also, one of the things that I don't Disneyfy it, or don't make it too much. So these are examples of like out there stuff that I look now go to the ones. So when I chose this was kind of about as tame as I could find. It kind of looks like us. There's a few things I want to say that this communicates. First of all, a 30-foot height limit with a minimum. So you're kind of sandwiched in here. The Ocean Beach sign is the only part of this plan that I can find that is not traffic limit. It's the only purely aesthetic thing. But I think why wouldn't we put it there? This is a San Diego tradition. You don't see those signs as much when you go to Orange County or LA. It's fairly graffiti proof, this example. The path on the right side to go down, we're gonna wanna make that as nice looking as possible and not an ugly ramp. Separation of, I'm thinking there will be a bike lane and a pedestrian path over it. You want the separation of that? Come on, all the way up there. I just realized that the slides did something that all the way up there. I just wanna show you guys the map, because I think you're thinking right now, what all the things was from the loss, okay. Let's just answer questions. So the blue line is the entire project area. That's where everything that's in play. The pink line is improved bike lanes. The red areas here and here are the parking structures. They're over the existing parking lots, so you're just going vertical. That's good because you're not expanding pavement out into your nice pretty grass areas. We're going vertical with parking. That was the surprise. I didn't think you guys would want that, to be honest. I didn't think, I thought, oh, don't go vertical on it because they'll just kill me. And then I think I heard yes, I'm not gonna know. So we don't know if it's here or both. We could do either one. The pedestrian bridge is marked here in orange. There's another pedestrian bridge over Nimitz. The tunnel and roadway connection would be somewhere to this parking. Okay, so if you look at it vertically, pedestrian bridges, 2 parking structures, a roadway connection to the parking lot and a tunnel under, and I'll get to that in a second, why we have the tunnel there. And that's actually, it's, yeah. The reason that we're tunneling, I'll just address it now, is if we were to. So this roadway connection down to this parking lot, I like it on the right side because all they'll have to do is pull down and that will eliminate everybody from having to come into West Point Roman. If we were to do an egress here to where people could then leave the park and come onto Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, it would trigger another intersection right here or another roundabout. I don't think we need another intersection anywhere. So I would rather propose going underneath of Sunset Cliffs Boulevard and coming up somewhere on the right side of it, like where this parking structure is, and then it will merge into the right side of the road. And that would take away a left hand, just like in that video, how they said it eliminates left hand turns. Left hand turns are the worst for traffic congestion. And you want to avoid it. So go down now, all the way down here. I'm getting pretty close to I'm almost on top of here. This is the tunnel. I'm calling it a tunnel. It might be an overpass with just nice walls, but it'll feel like a tunnel kind of. So we just want to make sure something's done through it and it doesn't feel scary. It is set to be locked off. Our cops are glad to hear that they're going to start locking things, but I also want to say we should be using our cops for something other than opening and closing gates. I hear you back there. So I don't love, I mean, like, if we had a maintenance district, they could take care of it, they could open and close gates, and we could use our cops for real cops, so. I'm done here. This is the bottleneck. If you think about every person that needs to go to 8 east or 5 south that lives in San Diego County, that is their only way out, is a 1-lane little road. If they're gonna go 5 north, they might not have to go through that, but this is gonna get rid of it, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it because you know it, but it's probably the biggest win of this entire plan is that little bitty bottleneck that every car has to squeeze through is going to get opened up. A lot of times when there's congestion here, the freeways are empty. In this summer when it's later, and you're having 8:30, 9 o'clock sunset, and I see cars backed up and then open interstate, I'm like, oh my god, I wanna just go out there and do it, but go to the next one. So this is the caliber I think that you're gonna get. You're gonna get more than 1 lane. We're gonna try to landscape the center of it. This is a picture of the Nimitz Bridge, and there's a nuance in here that it suggests being an X or a box shape. The reason that is because you're legally required to connect every single pathway. You can't just say, oh, we did 3 of the 4. It's not gonna work. So it suggests just either doing a box or an X. Unless the city wants to wave a magic wand and get right back to quadrant and do it another way. There's that really bad pedestrian crossing right here. The reason that's there is because it's required to be there. I hear that, why would the city put a pedestrian crossing? They have to. So this area down here, I just want to mention, we can preserve those really nice medians, I want to. And if this needs to do pavement expansion, we want to go north. Because in these corner pockets, there's not as much established full landscaping. Go down. Cool. So if we're looking at this area, there are 350 spaces. So from here to here would make up on one floor would make up all of the parking elimination on Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. So this is a 3-story parking structure, and we decided to add one over here. I don't think we're gonna be really long of parking. Largest addition to parking in Ocean Beach history. Now, I share a concern with Barb and probably everybody else is that you don't want to drive in and the first thing you see is a parking deck or an ugly parking deck, let's put it that way. So scroll down to my sections, just a couple more. So this is kind of the space that I'm more, click that video. She can. This is the direction I think you should go. The best thing to do with a structure is to landscape it and try to integrate the landscaping into the structure to where it looks like a park.
It needs the video.
That's okay. You got the point. That is, I was in LA and saw that, I thought, oh, that's such a good idea to do a big wall, and it would be something kind of different than, you could do any kind of a water feature or waterfall, it's also good to mask the sound of colors. We're gonna reference the old one in this design somehow, it could be big, it could be small, you don't have to go heavy into Egyptian, but just maybe a little pharaoh head somewhere, because that's kind of fun to do. We probably are plotting a trolley connection, way long, but this is the kind of parking deck. And we have a really big advantage on ours, is that we have a lot of area out from ours to plant. Most parking structures you see like in North Park or any urban area, they don't have room in front of them. Like even this one, it doesn't have room, so they just went for, but we can also plant out this, here's the front, that's why I put this one, there's a building behind. And we're gonna do a lot of it. So it's not just going to be the facade of it, we're gonna plant out from it. And build the best damn parking structure seen to me. And that's about all I want to say about it on the design side. I have a cost of 37 million. This is a very simple budget, but this thing took me forever. Because of that tunnel, it's the one that I don't. Let me put it this way, I called 2 of the largest land developers in San Diego County and they said, I don't know what that tunnel would cost. So. I think, I guess, some folks in here is part of that, but. 37 million seems about right. Pershing was 14, we're a lot bigger. Before the tunnel, I had it about 30 million, and so I've added about 10 million since then. I think that's pretty close when you compare it to the peer other large civic projects. This is more in budget, and the state should help on this because it's the terminus of the interstate. So we should be able to access state funds for this, so it's not entirely out of our coffer. Yeah, go ahead and do that one. Here's where we're going from tonight is, if we get approval tonight, we'll send it to these three people. And then it will sit for a very long time. And the goal is to get it on this unfunded list, but it needs to be designed first so we can get an exact cost. So really what we're looking for is one of these three individuals to initiate a designing staff to come from a council member who's saying, I want to open this. The design work is about 3 million. So compared to the Pierce 10 million design, I think, so that would be the initial design cost, is to get 3 million approved. It does call for a full community engagement, so we can get all the details worked out, and then they'll sit on the list. And then council needs to eventually fund it for move on to funding approvals. Could you go up? I think I just have one more.
The videos are being weird.
I got them. I do want to mention that, just go ahead and play one. I do want to mention while this is loading and starting that, the community plan, its number one mobility goal is to improve the inbound and outbound traffic congestion.
My name is Mark Riley Jr. I'm project manager here at Grand.
This is a comparative.
We are at the intersection of Highway 25 and 156. We're at the new Turbo roundabout. So the intersection was 2 lanes, each direction, northbound, southbound 25, and then eastbound, westbound 156.
This is closer to the
light signal here previously.
Size of roads.
We had 5 different stages to construct this. The work in each phase was nothing new to Granite Rock, making sure when we went from stage 1 to stage 2, everything was safe for the traveling.
Kevin Verdesky, Public Information Officer for Caltrans District 5. This location had a history of serious collisions that was higher than state standard. So we were able to access highway safety funds for this project. This is the first turbo roundabout in the state of California. One of the design features is the fact that it calms the speed at which people are negotiating the roundabout.
I know living in Hollister, you would see traffic backed up all the way to Highway 101 on 25 southbound in the afternoon. The biggest thing is safety.
The drivers are approaching the roundabout. They're seeing signs overhead that are suggesting lanes to get into. Whether or not you want to make a right, go straight, or make a left. And so you're committed to a single lane. The traffic on the left has the right of way. And people are able to, with the slower speeds, identify a gap when they can get out, get safely into a lane and take the roundabout and exit at their destination. We've done a lot of outreach, instructional videos in English and in Spanish. We really try to publicize and get people educated to be more comfortable when they negotiate the roundabout. Many people can view traffic camera that's set up here, Caltrans traffic camera. And if I look on the map or I look on the camera, especially during commute hours, you don't see the long backups that you do from the phone.
Heard good things, good reviews about the roundabout. People are getting through the intersection quicker and on with their days and on time to work, so.
Overall, it's an program for the community. We can learn from this whole construction process and possibly have it be a model for other locations around the state.
So it's a very good spot for me to stop and, because I do think I hit everything. Yeah, that's a great and that's a good site to start in, or to stop on. Just do a quick pass here. I don't think, anybody have any questions first? Was there comments, just questions?
Well, yeah, we're gonna go through community, go through board comments, and
Okay,
we'll go through discussion.
I think it's good.
Great. Do I have any questions or comments from the community? To start it up before I turn it over to, and first, whoever got on Zoom also. Sure.
Roundabouts, because I, looking at what ended at 8,
my first impression was, holy crap, no. But then I'm glad he brought up that Hollister one and he talked about safety, because I think the impetus for that roundabout up in Hollister was fatalities at that intersection. It had a lot of, and it worked, like fatalities dropped by some astronomical number. And I know that we've had bikes just fly off the end of the freeway into the freaking skate park. And I know that roundabouts are tough, but one thing about roundabouts you cannot argue is that when there are accidents, they usually don't kill people. So I'm just saying that as a community member, I kind of like that. Actually, I like that. So it's I'm done.
Thank you, Bob. Do I have any other community comments or questions about the plan? Okay, I'll move on. Tracy, we can start with you guys. Also, I don't want to start with Greg. Thanks.
I mean, first off, this is an amazing report. I was actually, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was very thorough and I really appreciate all the work that you did on this. It's more than any other transportation chair, including myself, has ever done, even though we talked about it ad nauseum and never did anything. So I really, truly appreciate it. The only issues I have are the one that you earmarked is parking. People are gonna freak the hell out if you remove 300 some odd spots, it's like. My question is, are we okay as a community turning Sunset Cliffs Boulevard into a highway? Because essentially, that's what it's gonna be, is like you said, 2 lanes?
Well, highways don't have center terminals.
But it is, I mean, what it does is it like opens up, for
So
cars.
congestion is bad. I just need to argue with your comment that you're either gonna choose congestion or a slow and steady stream approach. That's-
Right. Well, I remember Nicole Burgess, who's a bike advocate at huge bike advocate, saying that when you open up streets, it actually can increase the speed of traffic and cause more accidents for bicyclists. So I just remember her saying that and being kind of concerned about it. So when you remove the parking and you remove all this other stuff, you actually create more of a free flowing conduit for cars to just speed the hell through. And they're not as conscientious of, bicyclists and stuff like that. So I'm like, is there a balance between keeping the conduit open or opening it up a little bit more, but also making sure that bicyclists are going to be safe or directing that somewhere else instead of on Sunset Cliffs, like saying that Sunset Cliffs is not the bike route, do not ride your bike on Sunset Cliffs. And then again, like I said, it's like, well, does the community want a little mini highway running through the middle of it, So these are all things that this is a great plan and I would love to have more community input into it before we send it anywhere, because I think that once we start pushing this out to the community, they're probably gonna have a lot to say about it. And I feel like the transportation idea has been kind of isolated from the community right now, so it's really important that we get feedback. But I know people are gonna freak out about it. I really love the idea of having a parking structure built. Love it. I think it's amazing. We've been desperate for more event kind of parking in this area. I do worry about how long it's gonna take to build all that driving infrastructure and where that traffic goes while it's being built. That's gonna be a long process. Also, you had mentioned with the end about sending it to the council, if it gets approved and stuff like that. I just wanna wonder if we should wait until the 2026 elections before we start sending it to any council office. Because we're going to have a new council member in November, so we might want to delay and wait. If it gets approved or whatever, that might be a better time to do it. Instead of before the election. That was I think that was it. Yep, those are my things.
Kevin?
I'll start with a couple of comments and then I think have some questions. I think any sort of alterations to Sunset Cliffs in south end of Moby, especially south of Newport, is necessary. There's a lot of traffic down there. We're taking away residential parking for not really much benefit, in my opinion. That's not what the traffic problems are. The issue with parking on the, any displaced parking on the north end, you can't place it with the garage. Because nobody's gonna walk from Rob Field to their house on Saratoga Avenue. It does obviously help with, you know, Rob Field visitors, which there's a ton, certain peak times. You've had some comments about the needing to tunnel under Sunset Cliffs. But I think I think it would be resembling a tunnel because of the length of it to get back up to grade. It's gonna become a problem with flooding. Vagrants, graffiti, it's actually a place like no one's gonna want to do. So I think that if you have parking. Whether it's on the Rob Field side or the Dusty Road side, if you have a pedestrian bridge that connects those people to Rob Field. Then they don't have to physically drive into Rob Field, drive out of Rob Field, right? Obviously, you have to come in and out of OB. Did you have a roundabout in mind at Sunset Cliffs in West Point, Loma?
Everything from there through OB, or through the rest of OB, and that's a good point, I call it higher performing intersections. Because I can't say that there's enough room to put a roundabout in, or that the science would favor a roundabout over a center turn on. Because you could keep the lights and just add the turn lane and you might get enough of a benefit. I don't know if there's room to put those Bird Rock style roundabouts interior to. And that's why I just say higher performing, because I have to give it enough room.
So I think there would be a Sunset Cliffs in West Point, Loma, and it would give people in that parking lot a way, they could just turn out, right? It's not as good, but it gets them tapped out.
Like now,
And then you can do the same at Cable, you've got a weird alley connecting there, and now you've got a series of roundabouts actually in West Point, Loma, but.
I don't know if anybody's ever not hit that came out of Mission Valley and you need to go back to Mission Valley and you have to go all the way through and around. You know, that's kind of, if you have a roundabout there, then just zip through the keep going.
I guess my other. And then you did have a, you know, a larger roundabout for the 8, I don't think it includes the 8 freeway terminus. Am I correct on that?
It does, so that blue area.
Like where people are driving motorcycles into the skate ramp barriers and dying?
Yeah, it will include that.
It would include that, okay.
Cause we're gonna beef up that skate park berm, cause right now it's just some temporary things with paint and graffiti on it, or like that hurt mural. Let's get the ground up to they would just hit the.
If it can include that somehow, I think that would, no, that's the major safety issue, that's the speed issue, it's people leaving the 8, I've tried to prove that the city took up a few of those things, but. You know, they blame Caltrans.
They're not gonna,
It's dangerous, you come out at night, especially when there's not traffic there. Way, you just go until you crash into something, if you're on your phone or something, right? So. Anything that it addresses that intersection is good. I mentioned, I think at one of the meetings that. I think the difference between this and a traditional, I don't know if you call it a traffic circle at some point. Or even that one that we shot a video of, you have people going in different directions. Here you don't, you have. People that need to cross a specific line of traffic, they're all going the same way, they're all leaving town, right? And so if you're already building bridges and tunnels, I think you just build a bridge for those people on Sunset Bliss that are leaving town, so they don't have to intercept it while people can leave. And it's commuter traffic. Think of more traffic. Sunset traffic, well, that's when I get off work, cause it's sunset, right? Everyone lives in OB, almost, works outside of OB and vice versa. People that, you know, that work in OB are commuting, you know, from outside of OB, and that's why the traffic is so awful during the peak rush hour. No one's going to watch the sunset at, you know, 8 AM when it's gridlock getting into town. So I guess my last point is, I forgot what it was. Yeah, so the other difference is when you get into weird turbo roundabouts or things that are new, maybe have weird things that are new and unique. We have a lot of tourists coming here. They can't even figure out how to fucking merge left when they come into town. How are they gonna figure out the turbo is? So anything simple is better, because you don't have a bunch of new people from Arizona every single week that are learning it for the first time. It's gonna happen over and over.
Aren't they kind of forced to like just deal with it though? I mean, once they're in the roundabout, they're gonna drive around until they figure it out.
Chris, or Kevin, are those your comments?
Yeah, I like where it's going. It needs to be addressed. It's. How can we mitigate it?
Chris? Comments?
Yeah, I like it as well. There's a lot of potential here. I personally did not like it all, the parking structure at the beginning, but it grew on me and I started to sprout some buds on some possibilities of what that could look like. And it could even be a hub for these, you know, these tourists that are coming in. They don't even come in town. They don't even try to drive in. They can park here in structure. And then there's even some kind of a visitor hub or tourist hub that kind of helps guide them. Well, where do you want to go to be today? And you can kind of get you off into different parts of town that, you know, tourists might want. Thanks a lot of possibilities, potential of that aspect as well. That, to be honest, I think initially, but I think there's potential there. Lofty, but you know, as you mentioned it too, potential of a trolley station or something there too would you know, if you're really kind of starting to build out that area, to really start to drive tourism here into town, you know, it's just another area to try to look at. Getting some folks in town that come and spend some money.
It's far out. I want to comment on Charlie really quick. I don't know whether and no one does really. There's two ways I could see it coming in. One is through the I-8 corridor and connecting, or the other's down West Point Lima. I think West Point Lima is going to be obviously tighter. It would be a straight grade trolley. It's where the trolley used to go. Our train used to go West Point Lima. But I don't think that the city's ever going to want to push a trolley through. And while it's easier to walk to, I think that is an engineering nightmare. So I don't know, okay, but I would say either one of those two directions. Or Ingram over to PB one day when they get it to go down Grand. I mean, this is really far to think of, but I think some people are like, how would they do it? For us, I think either has to be West Point Lines or the I-8.
So, but no, I agree with you. I think there's a possibility there. So we'll come with some other things that.
I think the transportation committee or the Tyler committee has definitely created a plan here that needs to be respected and responded to. So I could excuse me, like Tracy said, can we whoever's driving the slides go and I know what number it is. Here's one of the earlier slides that talked about how much traffic was coming in and out, so dissipating by the time you got to the report.
Yeah, down. Tracy, that one right.
11, right?
Exactly. So hearing the comment that historical challenges has been the elimination of parking on Sunset Post Boulevard, and that's kind of like what Kevin said, and also I said my reservations, though maybe that is the future. I think if we're realistically trying to think about how this plan could be accomplished, I would break it up into two projects. One would be the elimination of or the appeasement or the improvement of traffic near the Rock Field area as you come into town. And don't touch Sunset Post Boulevard. Don't worry about eliminating that parking, eliminating that parking. Um. You know, so make a lot of improvements, you're talking about roundabouts, the bridge, things like that, I think that would solve the big issue that this slide highlights. And it would just be much more honestly affordable. I don't know if your research considered that, you know, break, in my experience, you got to phase these things, so that would be a phase one, and maybe later phase two.
They phase developments possible as money becomes available to fix and add different things. I wouldn't want to solve half the problem. And I think you would get, well, I think you get 60, 70, 80% of the way there if you just did the outside. But
That's what I was like, just do like everything as you enter town.
I think I would say that you're gonna be pretty congestion free from right here, but you're gonna do the exact same thing there. That's what I would say. So if you don't rotate the cars out, then
Seems like you would eliminate like the 28 and the 24, and you'd probably get closer to numbers like the 15, maybe 16, 17, 20. I don't know, but it just seems like if you do those improvements on the north side, you are gonna impact the linear traffic flow to it since at this point. So that would be, you know, my comment or suggestion to at least look into, and I think it could help with the community input and engagement part of this, right? Where people might understand we're not trying to grab at the sky. You know, I would support aspirational, but I feel like if we really are trying to accomplish this, it might be sensible to break that up into two phases. And then in terms of the parking structures, a little bit of experience with this, and I support a lot of things you said about masking facade and screening. There's lots of things you can do actually beyond vegetation too, to make those things look pretty nice. There's some nice parking structures out there these days. I think the challenge is the location I highlighted. I support them for the reasons that there's already surface lots there. But people don't want to park where they can't see the destination. This would be the beach. If they're asked to park, you know, half mile from the beach and they don't even know where the beach is, especially the tourists that are coming here. I think that's gonna be a challenge. It doesn't mean education could help solve some of that, but generally people want to get as close to where they're going, park and then get out and walk a little bit. So that's just something to think of caution. And my final question, I still am not grasping the ton. I'm not, how does it function? To the extent that we get,
Yeah.
I know, but you're trying to say.
so it would come underneath about right here. And come up on the other side, merge in and around.
So you're
Or you
asking-
could go this way, you would just enter the roundabout. With the egressing everybody else, but you would zipper it.
It's
Instead
coming
of-
from the mobility hub or this parking structure.
Yeah, there would be a road as a part of this development that would come up on
Okay,
this
so
side.
it, but solely as exit or egress from
egress.
that structure.
Yep.
Okay, I see, I mean, like, that makes sense, Tyler. I think, again, maybe a cost elimination or reduction would be, how else could that be accomplished, or is it necessary? I understand what you're saying, if you don't go out there, you're gonna have to go all the way back to West Point Boulevard. Right, you can find your way out there, so I don't know, that would be like maybe a phase 2B to explore that tunnel if it's really gonna be problematic from a cost perspective. That is just something we can,
They would probably do it at the same time that they build the parking structure.
even there, whatever cost there is down the ground. Anyway, that's my comment there.
And I'm just gonna comment on the comment on the. You know, I feel you on the walk thing, I think it can be done with, but. You guys really wanna put a parking structure on the beach?
To be clear, I'm definitely not proposing that,
So, how close do you want? That's my question. Well, I mean, you wanna be able to see the beach, but. You don't want people on the beach to see it, and also I'd say this. There's nothing that would really stop a private property owner from proposing a parking deck. We have several paid for lots right now. I have about $2 million estimated that private people are making off of parking.
I'm just waiting for something to go up in front of CUS one.
I know.
I know you're saying, I really appreciate the opportunity, I would not support something right here to push out, it's coastal access, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just trying to call out what would be really a barrier, I think, to the use of that structure, not to say again, that over time, people could, educate themselves and have people go, oh yeah, before the cookie.
Yeah.
pick a who's two structures, but even after that, how do we get to the beach?
And I wanted to mention that the reason why I kind of put both of these in is because if you were over here and you were walking and all the density up of West Oklahoma. This helps a little bit to give a small island on here and then a little bit over here to service more of this people to swim.
Yeah, and I understand exactly why they chose the location, right? Cool, thank you. Yeah.
Barbara. Yeah, so, I really appreciate the continuing time, and last minute and speed on all of this. I think it's gonna be now, and everyone can appreciate the magnitude of this one and have everything into this. I'll just need time to know this, so I'm just gonna reiterate my concerns at time I talked about. I did say the last thing I want to see, the first thing you see coming into Ocean Beach, a parking structure. So we talked about the greenery, but, and I think that's great, and there's a maintenance plan in there, but as we all know, there's budget cuts. So my fear is, we're so good at putting things up, but we're not good about taking care of them. We talked about the irrigation, I think that's great, but I see that tiny garage as being, no one's gonna monitor it, no one's gonna control it. We already have our police officers that are already like paper thin. And it's gonna be a homeless camp. It's gonna be, you playing whack-a-mole with the homeless, the unlifers and the campers, and they're gonna be in that structure, and there's not gonna be anything to get them out. You're gonna have homeless in there, they're feeding, the inside of that thing, it's not going to be safe. That's my concern, see it as unsafe, but.
Can I ask us a
Yeah.
question? So I don't know, my brain, I guess, is with my past experience, fully anticipated that some sort of operator would be contracted to monitor this garage. Is this supposed to be a completely free public garage? Is that what it is? Is that as proposed?
It doesn't, the plan doesn't propose anything on that. With the direction that city parking is going, I mean, we're gonna get meters on the beach docks in about 6 months. And get ready, because what everyone's gonna say is, they're just gonna park in the residential. That's exactly what they're gonna say. So
Yeah,
all I can tell you is embrace a parking district on that, because that is what they're gonna do in a matter of weeks, so I think that'll be paid.
Yeah, that's going, without going down the road, you mentioned about metered parking on the streets, I would anticipate that with the expense of maybe trying to find funding for the thing, it ends up being operated by somebody, hopefully at a reasonable rate of it. They can't be free, but if you had an operator, that would solve your concerns, so you've got something out of it.
You're still gonna have campers with it though, no one's gonna make it leave.
I think there's ways to restrict.
If they have to pay, they're not gonna pay them.
Yeah, those just aren't.
They need height restrictions if you think about staying in the garage,
You know what always blows my mind is that street sweeping takes care of their livers and no one ever thinks to expand street sweeping. Like, we're sitting here talking about the 72-hour rule and we can't enforce it and all this, but you put a street sweeping sign up and my God, everyone moves their cars instant. And why couldn't you just expand street sweeps?
Can we get back to Bart? Guys, finish your comments. The cost for the parking out there with the bridge going over is more events, Rod Field, more parking for Rod Field, they can use the park, go over the walkway. The tunnel, we talked about safety concerns, right? And we talked about we're gonna use a gate in there, to gate off that tunnel because. Women walking around at night, everyone's talking to them, and you just don't, so safety concerns. And then the parking on Sunset Cliffs, we talked about taking away so many and then adding this many. Kevin, I don't think that someone who's sitting on Saratoga is going to walk all the way from the parking structure. Probably we can see parking structure. I do see the, the turn lane, we talked about the 83% of the accidents in Ocean Beach. Happen in Sunset Cliffs, so obviously, we see it all the time, we have a way Sunset Cliffs like the play. But
Those are my concerns, and I think that's, but those were my top concerns.
This is a cool project. We talked about the traffic forever, so I'm happy to see that there's a plan to make putting it together. I would say the first thing that stood out is echoing kind of what Chris said, that this feels like two separate projects that are maybe linked. But one would be focused more on the Rob Field traffic part of things, and the other would be how do we get people in and out of deeper into OB? In my mind, putting parking structures in Rob Field would be great for Rob Field and for hosting events and some of those other improvements that we're talking about, but I don't see people parking there to walk all the way to Newport or walk all the way to the beach. It's just too far. And so, to me, that's a separate project. Maybe it's still a good idea to do it as part of the Rob Field kind of redevelopment. But I don't know that helps prevent cars that are going into other places. So I would maybe split it off. And then you mentioned a few things like the one lane exit to the highway. Even on the highway, there's like a one lane where it all bottlenecks. I wonder if there's smaller incremental things that you might be able to propose. That are more feasible from a financial perspective, in the sense of versus kind of all of this at once, or some of those things, if we can't get 37 million, but we get 2 million, what can we do for that? Kind of.
I have one last thing, so you had brought up, when we were talking about, was it, not scooters, but having,
First mile, last mile from you.
no, in the parking structure, you said that there were, golf or rentals or something.
That was in 19 from some map from 2019, but we can look at it.
No, I think that if people can get to OB and they can take like scooters and that,
This is what I envisioned when I say everybody like the forest, you know, type thing, and I was kind of expanding a little bit more on the structure of the building, because it might then maybe require its own kind of house structure to be able to do this, but there's a way that can be done. You kind of get them, you trap them in there, and not trap them, but you get them there, and then you can, then you kind of follow them off to the ways that they want to go. And you know, I guess from the business side of that, I would have a ton of golf carts. I would have, you know, there are ways that you could then be able to get the visitors off to the ways that they need to go. But again, I may agree with you a little bit on that too. That seems like that's probably like a phase, like. To this, but an element of it that you could expand and maybe help clean.
Just in nuance though, I used to call it a mobility hub and I switched it to visitor parking structure. Because I started seeing more as a visitor parking structure. And I think if it was marketed as a visitor parking structure, the visitor is more inclined, oh, let's just park here. And a big part of coming to someone who's experiencing by foot, you know, people park their car anywhere and then they just walk around. But
So I think a few of these are butting up a little bit on the Rob Field improvements. Correct me if I'm wrong, because when we heard the presentation a couple of months ago, they are planning on doing something about the parking. I remember we talked about it distinctly a while. We asked for additional parking. It would be interesting to see to the point if we could intervene, even though they already have plans at this point to push them for a little bit more, with the thought that it would be pay parking and revenue generating and they would want to pay money into it. That's the one part of this plan I can see moving forward. You know, even with in our budget request or CIP requests coming up. The roundabout, we would have to engage at the state level higher ups. But I love them. I know we have disagreeing factions on the board, but I'm not opposed to that. I just know it's going to take a little bit more interaction with different parties, and it won't be just a direct request to our mayor and council office. We, you know, it would require further outreach. But I would Yeah, I would. Begin, like Chris was saying, begin to move forward in phases with just the parking structure. I would not support the removal of parking on Sunset Cliffs with the parking structure. I do think that would come significantly further down the road if we were to see what Sandag is proposing for the mobility. The one thing that is in the mobility plan by 2035, I think it's something called a circulator. And I don't know what that would look like, but I do think we should be the ones who pick where it starts and stops. So if it was a circulating, like imagine if you parked in these visitor sections and it circulated from one of them all the way around to the other one. I also think this would be a boon for businesses on Voltaire. If you're having to walk in to Sunset Cliffs, it might help activate that business district further. And I also crazy, but they are building a road off of Sunset Cliffs Boulevard that goes right into, that was part of the Rob Field improvements, correct? To go back into that.
I don't remember.
They took that out, that was in a very stage.
Well, that's something we've wanted for years and just they never pick it up.
Didn't, is it the city had one?
At part, when they saw the Rob Field improvement plans. I wasn't part
No,
of
I mean, in the
it.
reason.
They took that out. When they.
They said they were gonna finish something, so they're just finishing the little plaza instead.
They were just adding some little roundabout within the parking lot. Something like that. Okay. This is connecting.
Okay, I understand.
They did say that they evaluated it, though, just like kind of you said,
Yeah.
coming in here, so I don't know if there's more information we can get about it.
Well, those are the thoughts on what's actionable today, or actionable in the coming months.
I'd like to get more community feedback on it before we send it in.
Right, okay, so does nobody feel comfortable making a motion tonight?
It will be a pretty first motion to recommend further development. The project, including dividing into
Right,
phases.
yeah, I think we should, cause like I said, I think there was one phase we could approve. With, within the next couple months, especially for budget season. But if.
I mean, I would support that motion because I think it's important that the board give some direction here. Well, definitely support Tracy's saying more engagement, because I agree, I don't think society is. Or, yeah, more.
So we need it, or just a request for the transportation to come out with maybe a phase plan that we could approve. Is that what people feel, or?
Yes. I would love to attend.
Okay.
Is that an option? Who made the motion?
So I didn't.
Second.
Kevin, Chris, okay, and the motion is,
Is to recommend further development at the traffic subcommittee. To include additional public outreach and dividing the project into phases.
and Chris.
I would be just a little clear with the phases, meeting, right, like. The rock field improvement and parking garages, everything except for Sunset Cliff. Was full of parking. So that's, I said, what Kevin said, the phasing being eliminated, the Sunset Cliff Boulevard parking, should take that out.
Basically, north and west of Dublin and south.
Yep. It's,
So it's basically everything except for the first one.
yeah, I was looking at this, I think that.
I mean, the point of phasing also is to make the budget more palatable. So if, and also if I put things up, it's not necessary, like that.
You could just approve the external, so it's like. It sounds like everyone said that they're okay with that, they just write, so just no sense of this building from interior.
I don't know.
I think, well, I think you guys want more darker side, I'm not gonna put, would you not put?
I think it needs more. Development, especially if we split, because then you split it into phases, now you gotta like. There's always gonna be some overlap, right? You
Yeah.
gotta make sure phase one is compatible with phase two, it's just. It's not just chop and sharp. So I think. I hate to volunteer to do this time, but it's gonna require some additional. Definitely some, next subcommittee. To get to to get to something more.
Any other discussion on the motion? Right, Chris?
Right, so right now I have the motion to recommend further development at the traffic subcommittee, to include public outreach and divide into phases.
I think we understand here what the. I didn't want to put it right, just this is what it, how would you say it, that phases two include the elimination of Sunset Cliffs Boulevard. Part two, yeah, I guess to defer. Changes to.
Alright, Chris, call a roll.
Okay, all right, so again, so I have a motion to recommend further development at the traffic subcommittee, to include public outreach and divide into phases to include the elimination of changes to Sunset Coast Boulevard. Tracy.
Yay.
Yeah. Christie, yeah. Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barb.
Yeah.
And
Okay, good. Okay, so moving on to the budget, I never intended it for us to talk about this one in 10 minutes and anything, but I put it as an action item, but I didn't think we'd actually. Have any action on it today, and I hope everyone took a brief look at our budget from last year. I don't think anything was crossed off this year, so we're starting over, from scratch. I mean, I don't think going through this, I don't think anyone would take anything off of this, and I know Chris, the other Chris that is here today, did do a lot of work on the parks proposals as well, so we'll be merging that in there. But I did just want everyone to have this as top of mind. We kind of are just a month behind the 8 ball. I usually like to start this process in November, but as you know, I had other things to discuss and definitely access to be but the concern about.
Isn't the gated overnight closures gonna happen?
Oh, that is true, yeah, right. When did it start? It's still, I think they've installed the gates, but they haven't been approved by the postal commission to be locked.
But that's only at like Rockfield.
Not Dog Beach, yeah?
I don't think it's done.
Phase.
Okay.
3 phases.
So it's
Most of them are in phase 3, perhaps phase 1. Phase 3 being
We did also, yes, and the community foundation did get a $50,000 grant for homeless outreach. So I know it's not a full-time homeless outreach program, but it is it is something that is being funded, and it's obviously being monitored as far as their outcomes are concerned, and whether or not that will increase their funding in the future.
Did any of these controlled pedestrian happen?
Lots of crosswalks are on the path to.
Yeah, the controlled pedestrian crossing on Sunset Cliffs of Niagara and Place and losing Booker. Has those happened yet? I feel like there's been a new one installed somewhere in town, but I haven't. Maybe that was only there.
There's just one of them added right
There's one
by
in Voltaire
the
too.
park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that turn, that we were,
So they are doing, like, that's good.
for
Yeah.
signs.
The street light repairs along Abbott and Bacon, those have been done.
Alright.
Yeah, so there's some things we can remove.
And then I feel like stormwater and drainage is so major.
There's gonna be one there.
Especially after the floods. Okay. What, well, do you want me to send you a doc version of this? We can go through it together and make some edits and then send it out.
Here's the next time.
Yeah, I can copy and paste it into or Google Drive or we'll look at it and cross out whatever we know has been funded or not funded, and then we can present it again. Next week.
That's not gonna slow you down for the budget process, so wait till next meeting, is that what you're saying?
No. Yeah, I like to get it in, I would ideally put it in by December, but if we get it in before February.
But if it's only a
Early
few
January.
things, could we just not agree to it right now and then not have to worry about this anymore?
If there's nothing else you wanna add. That's the only thing, like if people have new budget requests as well.
I don't speak.
Now, there will be a January.
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the sixth, so we will have a.
I think it's just, let's do our due diligence, get it focused, like exactly what we want, and then just come in and just take off the list.
You can't care if it's for the meeting.
Yeah, prepare that, yeah, prepare for me.
Wait,
I feel like it's a great, pretty comprehensive list, but I agree, if it's not gonna hurt you from the time.
yeah, and I wanna hear the parks plan too,
Got
as
it.
well,
Okay.
just so we can advocate for, so those will be up in January. Cool, the election committee stuff, other things, I think the EIR for the pier is going to come out like hopefully in spring of next year. And then we can pick back up with a peer subcommittee. I know we formed them and then we never met because the EIR has not been released, so there's not much to do. But in the new year, I would like to kind of get the ball rolling again on that. The city is being like, there's nothing to talk about until we get the EIR done, but we do need to, be loud about it or else they'll eventually forget, because it is a big ticket item, so. It's gonna take a lot of work to get them the funding. Any other liaison reports before we adjourn?
Yeah.
Environmental impact. Yes.
They did propose that one of the proposals that appeared had in the structure. By the way, the parking structure looking over the Lafitte beach, he had said, nobody wants that, but some people did, so.
I think it's crazy.
I don't mind it so much, but.
I mean, if I were gonna put one interior and I was just gonna pick, I would do like the lot next to first or something that is interior, so it's kind of packaged in there,
So a private lot.
but we don't have control of it. So. The only thing, I wouldn't dare suggest this, but. You could issue an RFP and call out exactly where you want it in the hopes that. So that one of those owners would say, I'll take that. But I think it's, yes, I'm proposing a parking deck out there, but you propose it here, they're really gonna be loud. Because it's not, and like I said, with the space, whenever you're on a city block and you got a parking structure, you can have photos or. It's just gonna look like a parking structure, even no matter how artsy you get on the other side. So, that pier lot where you're talking about is, you know what I would put there as a community center? I would put, if anybody ever wanted to do something there, I would go either 2 or 3 stories up, I would do a top floor. Community center. It looked at, and everybody could use it, and so it's a communal space that we all get to enjoy there. And then you could have a couple layers of parking.
Yeah. Too bad you were in the meetings. You could have proposed that.
I don't think, with restaurant, I mean, it's out of there, so. Yeah.
All right, any other liaison reports? We are unfortunately, I will try, okay, so CPC met tonight and they were looking at code. So I'm gonna pick through that and see if there's anything important for us, but if anyone else is interested in the land development code updates, they finally publish the language. Awesome.
They're always trying to sneak things.
10 months late, 10 months late, but they were busy, honestly though. Okay, cool, so everyone, if you could all put your chair away, that'd be super helpful. We can see you guys on January 6th, have a good holiday.